welcome everyone to the UFC 133 video. I'm going to be doing pre and post videos for each event, for every month, for every UFC numbered fight, not the fight nights. Those aren't a big enough draw, I don't think. This event is going to feature the main event of Rashad Evans and Tito Ortiz, but let's give you a little information on it. The original main event was supposed to feature Jon Jones versus Rashad Evans. Jon Jones pulled out due to injury. Rashad Evans was left out without opponent. Phil Davis stepped in. Phil Davis became injured. At that time, yet again, there was no opponent for him. Then an offer was made to Tito Ortiz. He declined. Then an offer was made to Lyoto Machida. Machida said he would only take the fight if he was offered Anderson Silva type money. That being said, they didn't go with that because who the hell is Lyoto Machida? And so offer was then again made to Tito Ortiz. He accepted, and here we are with the UFC 133 main event. Evans versus Ortiz. The prelims will feature Matt Hammer versus Alex Gustafsson. As you know, Matt Hammer suffered a unanimous loss to Rampage, who will be at the UFC 134 main event against Jon Jones for the title. So next month's main event will be Rampage versus Tito. I'm kind of disappointed because I would have liked Matt Hammer to have won that, as of you, I'm sure. Yeah. Chad Mendes and Rami Yaha, whatever, I don't know who he is, so that's why it's prelim. Main card will feature 11-1 Roy McDonald versus Mike Powell, who is 21-7. Thoughts on who you think will win that?
Since I don't know either of them, I'm going to go with the 11-1 guy.
Roy McDonald. I'm also going to go with Roy McDonald. I have never seen, well, I probably have, but I don't remember any of their fights. The next fight on the card will feature 19-8 Jorge Rivera, who is coming off a loss to Michael Bisping. You probably all remember that. Michael Bisping knocked him, after poking him in the eye, having some weird issue with that, knocked him out almost twice in the match and then spit and basically said F you to his ringmen. But that's why I like Michael Bisping, so we'll talk more about him.
That's why I hate him.
Yeah, he'll be hosting this upcoming season, The Ultimate Fighter, against, the heck is his name? Mayhem Miller. And his opponent will be Konstantinos Filipão, 7-2. I don't know him. So I'm going to go with Jorge Rivera. He needs to avenge that loss. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to do the same.
Alright. We have two veterans on the next one. We have Dennis Hallman, who has 50 wins and 13 losses, versus Brian Ebersol. Know the name, don't remember a lot of his fights. 47-14 he is. I'm going to go with Ebersol, just because I recognize the name. Hallman, I feel like I recognize him, but I don't remember any of his fights.
I'm going with Hallman.
Okay, so we have her against me on that one. The co-main event will feature Vitor Belfort, who you all know of his recent loss to the front ninja Karate Kid kick from Anderson Silva. That was a really sad fight. I believe it knocked out his tooth even. Steven Seagal was proud. He is 19-9 versus Yoshihiro Akiyama, who is 13-3. His last loss was to Michael Bisping at UFC 120, unanimous decision. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Belfort.
I'm taking Belfort as well. I feel that was a tough loss for him, and he's a much better fighter than that. There was a lot of hype over it, and he had definite ring rust on that fight. And now we go to the main event. Rashad Evans versus Tito Ortiz. Who are you picking before I give you some information? Maybe I'll change your mind.
It's hard. I don't know. I feel like Tito got a little lucky in his last fight because he's been doing so bad. I mean, he did a good job, but he's been doing so awful. But by the same time, I don't really like Rashad that much. And it's not necessarily that he's a horrible fighter. It's that he's boring to watch. And I feel like Tito being explosive, and as much as I don't necessarily like him, he's always kind of exciting to watch. I don't know. I think I'm leaning toward Tito at this point, but who knows, that'll change by the day of the fight, I'm sure.
It could. I'm going to give you some background information on this for fans who are casual viewers. Rashad Evans has 17 wins, 15 losses, and 1 draw. His only loss in his career is to Lyoto Machida, who originally could have taken the fight. Obviously, if you've seen The Ultimate Fighter with Rashad Evans versus Rampage, it was joked about a lot, how Rashad looked when he got knocked out. I'm sure you can find many clips. Yeah, basically like that. It was a joke. Machida was just too fast for him at the time. Machida suffered a few losses after that, and Shogun Hua, now Jon Jones. I mean, it's a tough division to be in, the light heavyweights at 205. His only draw is to Tito Ortiz at UFC 73. Rashad Evans has 5 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 8 decisions, so he's a well-rounded fighter. His last win was at UFC 114. Mind you, this is UFC 133. So Evans, we have not seen in quite some time. And his last win was over Rampage Jackson, a unanimous decision. Which
that was the most boring fight I've ever seen.
It was a terrible fight. We've seen an exchange in round 1, an exchange in round 3, and that was it.
Yeah, it was so boring.
And that was supposed to be the final for the Ultimate Fighter Season 10. That was the coaches' fight. And
especially given how much they hated each other, I was really expecting more. That was so boring.
Well, it was delayed, too. It almost didn't even happen. It didn't happen.
They're both whiny.
Rampage went to film the A-Team, which many of you may or may not have seen. And we didn't know if he was going to come back to the UFC. So he came back and, lost to Evans, who is now where he's at. Talk about Tito Ortiz. He's 16-8-1. His only draw is to Rashad Evans. Tito's only draw is to Evans at 73. So they're both their only draws in their career. Although he lost a few as well.
A few. That's nice to say.
Tito's had a rough 5 years. He had a big win over Ryan Bader, capitalized on dropping him and putting him in a submission guillotine to win the fight in the round 1. Was within, I believe, 2 minutes.
And that's impressive because Ryan Bader is a good fighter.
Bader's had a couple of hard losses too.
Yeah.
Obviously losing to John Jones, who's now the heavyweight or light heavyweight champion. So he's had a couple of legitimate losses. Tito Ortiz has 8 knockouts, 3 submissions, 5 decisions, and his last win, like I said, it was at the last pay-per-view a month ago to Bader at UFC 132. So this could be a good thing or a bad thing having him have, a fight recently, especially going against Evans, who has not had a fight in quite some time. Could be good, could be bad. Do you think that's going to affect him?
I think Tito plays to the crowd. I think if the crowd is behind Tito, which I have a feeling they will be in this match because a lot of people hate Rashad Evans.
It's true.
I have a feeling that he's going to do better based on how the crowd reacts to him. Because he does play to the crowd a lot. That's why he's so insanely popular. And Rashad's fights, they're just not that interesting. He's had a couple of good, knockouts and things like that. But most of the time, when I watch him, I'm bored. And at least, as much as I don't like Tito Ortiz as a fighter, I liked him as a coach on the seasons. I really grew to like him. And he's more exciting to watch to me. So I hope Tito wins. But I don't know. I don't know if his last fight was luck or, I guess we'll see. Who
knows? Last thing to touch on before I close this out and get you all hyped up for UFC 133. This fight is for possible title contention. It could be #1 contender. They haven't officialized it yet, but if we see a big win, I'm assuming Dana White's going to make it. If it's a flash win, knockout, quick submission, he's going to say, hey, you're the new #1 contender against winner of Rampage and John Jones. I have a lot of problems with this. There's a lot of up-and-coming fighters. Yeah, Hamill just lost recently. I thought he was deserving of it. But you have a guy like Tito. Yes, he's a big draw, and I think that's why they're doing this. You have a guy who lost for 5 years straight. He wins one fight by a submission, and then he's into title contention. Yeah. After guys who have maybe lost one fight in their career.
And the way he came into it. They asked him, he said no, so they asked one other guy, and then they go back to Tito? Mm-hmm. He said no. He doesn't deserve it. And like you said, yes, he beat Ryan Bader, and then, yes, that was a great fight to watch. However, I find it very hard to believe that the UFC doesn't have anyone else that's more deserving to go, to be going for the #1 contendership. I don't know. I'm excited for the fight, but at the same time, I don't think either of them deserve it. So
I'm going to close with this right here. I want you guys all to comment below the video. Who do you think is the #1 contender? Do you think these two should be given a #1 contender, and why? What kind of structuring do you think the UFC should make to make it a legitimate sport? Because as of right now, they want it to be a sport, but with this type of structuring and ranking system, I don't feel it's legitimate. So comment below, and make sure you check out on August 6th, UFC 133. Thank you, Andrea, for being on the show today, and stay tuned for a post-show on our results. We'll give the results right after the event on YouTube and Facebook, wherever you find us. So thank you again for watching Box News Sports Edition.